province-wide opportunity for farms to showcase what they have, and also for urbanites to come out and understand a little bit about rural Alberta. And authenticity really is the most important part about this. And what our consumers want is they want to see what happens on a farm, and they don't know. So this is our backstage pass for visitors to see the farm firsthand. They want to meet you, the farmer, and they want to understand what is going on. One of the challenging things that a lot of our farms ask is, well, I'm not sure what to do because it doesn't seem very exciting. This is what I do every day. But the reality is your everyday is completely different for a lot of people, and they just want to understand a little bit about it, to see the animals, to understand how things grow and what that looks like. So really just being your authentic self is the important part of this. And of course, we know from our farms from reporting that Open Farm Days is a very profitable weekend, and increasingly so each year. So we welcome you to make the most of it. We know that a number of you do want to sell products, and our consumers certainly want to buy them. So by connecting those two things, it's a really positive thing. So without any further ado, we'll get started. Our sections here, many of them have a deeper dive into the program. So next slide, Nicola, please. We have a whole section on insurance and permits. So we're going to touch on those things, but there's a whole workshop on those. Signage and wayfinding, keeping it safe. So what you should be doing on your farm to prep for it, what you should be doing with your equipment and for emergencies, staffing, merchandising, animals, food, and marketing. So this is an overview session that will touch on a bunch of these things, and you are going to find links to different resources that you can use as you start to do your planning. So this is a great starting place for you. And as always, our team at Open Farm Days is here to help walk you through this and to assist you with your planning. Our team here today, everybody knows Nicola, and Nicola is doing all of our media, our marketing, our promotional, our web. And I think, you know, if any of you have questions about those things, Nicola, of course, is a great contact. Suzanne Kelly is the program manager for all of Open Farm Days. So all the kind of big picture connections with ag societies, porta potties, all those sorts of things. And I do the regulatory, so Alberta Health Services, Alberta Liquor and Gaming, and planning as well. So you've got lots of people to contact, but the other thing to note is we are the only 3 people that are also working on this. So sometimes we get a lot of questions, and as we get closer to the date, there's a lot of people that want to make a lot of changes to their platforms and things like that. So just good for everyone here to know that it's really the 3 of us that are doing all of this. So sometimes, you know, the timing and the response time when there's sort of 150 farms does become a bit of a challenge. So just as long as you're aware of what we're doing, I think that's certainly helpful. So to start off with insurance, the insurance that Open Farm Days has is a blanket insurance policy. And the blanket insurance policy covers a typical Open Farm Days visit. It covers both pre and post Open Farm Days. So it allows us to get set up. It runs for the full weekend, and then the tear down pieces as well. So there's coverage for usually 4 to 5 days. The insurance policy will come out probably 2 to 3 weeks prior to Open Farm Days, and each year it's very similar in nature. However, there are changes each year, which we do kind of want to flag. The insurance policy does not cover everything, and every time that there is an insurance claim made, and I don't mean from Open Farm Days, but in general, it will impact our policy and what's included. So a good example is a number of years ago in Ontario, there was a problem with a wagon ride. And I don't know the whole backstory behind it, but it impacted insurance around equine programs. So 2 years ago, Open Farm Days removed the equine policy from it because it was cost prohibitive for us to be able to do that. And because our blanket covers it for absolutely everyone. And when we have only a few places that we're actually doing things with horses, it just really didn't make sense. So there's those opportunities for people to go and see what might not be included in the policies and to see if there's something that you might need a top up for. So that's important to know. Another inclusion is jumping castles. Those are add-on things that you can go through our insurance broker for, or your own if you have one, or another event company. But there is a whole section on insurance that you can take a look at. Now, as we move on to permits, there's a number of different permits that we encourage you to get, and it depends on what you're doing on your farm. But when you've got food and drink on there, Alberta Health Services has a wide variety of permits for your events. And really the goal is just to make sure that you're covered and that things are being done properly. So resources are available, and you can follow the links in our checklist to make sure that you're covered for what you want to do. And I think all of you know that the permits for AHS, they're all free. And essentially they're there to help guide you to make sure that you have a safe experience and that everybody is covered, that you understand the rules and can sell and work with the products and the food products that you want to. I'm happy to jump on a call with anyone that is looking to do something new with food on their farm, or if you're looking to sell your own products or do sloppy joes or all sorts of things. There's lots of ways to effectively be able to do this. And we've had many farms start exploring cooking with their own food products and doing different things. And there are a few hoops to jump through, but it is absolutely very possible and might be a lot of fun for you to do as well. Alberta Gaming and Liquor also have been a marvelous partner, and we have sessions coming up in March and April with both AHS and AGLC. And we've run quite a few artisan markets with our farm vendors selling liquor products, which have been great. And of course, long table lunches and dinners with local beer and stuff. So many different ways to approach these things, but it is important to have the right permits. And whether you have the permit yourself or a catering company or a liquor provider uses their permit at your space, there's lots of different ways to proceed with this. So just know that those things exist out there and that we're here to help you kind of move forward in doing those things. Moving on to signage and wayfinding. This is one challenge that we have each year, and getting to the guests is really the first part of that experience, making sure that your pin drop is in the correct place, making sure that people don't have a problem trying to find you. So what we'd like to get everyone to do is actually to test, take a look at the Open Farm Day site, take a look at where everything lands for your farm and make sure it's accurate. We've had in the past a number of people that come back and will include proper driving directions because the pin drop is not correct. What we really need to do is make sure everybody can find you properly and appropriately. And, writing correct directions isn't going to solve it because we have a mapping tool for Open Farm Days. So people will plug your farm into our tool and they will take those directions to get to you. So by including extra writing, that's not going to actually solve our problem. So what we want everyone to do is nice and early on, go in, double check and make sure it's correct, or just try and plug your address or your farm into navigation and see if you end up at the right place. And if not, then that gives us enough time to try and see how we can get it fixed prior to Open Farm Days. Every year we do always have the stories saying, oh, well, I drove to the wrong farm, but they pointed me down the road. So I think that's really important. Moving on. When we take a look at our signage for Open Farm Days, I think this is a really critical step of placement. And each year, of course, we send out the signs for those that need them. So do make sure you are keeping your signs, keep them somewhere safe. If you need more, let us know. We do a print run each year. And we love to see them used effectively. And a lot of people find very unique and great ways to showcase their signs. But you have to understand people coming there for the first time are a little bit cautious and a little bit nervous, and they want to ensure that they have found the right place. So if they're not seeing those signs that come off the major roadways and lead them down to your path with the arrows saying, yep, come this way, they might just keep going, because people will be very apprehensive about entering if it doesn't look like they're at the right place. So for everyone that drives up and into the wrong farm, there's a whole bunch that probably just keep going because they can't find where they're trying to go. So something to really be kind of mindful of is how you get there. The next part is parking. And this is something we hear back from all the farms each year, that people went to the wrong space and they weren't happy with how they were parking. But the problem is with parking is when a visitor enters in, they really have absolutely no idea where to go. And they're not trying to annoy anybody. They're just trying to find the most logical place to park. So they will drive in, and if there are two vehicles in one place, they will just park next to them, and that will continue. So I was at one farm last year, and they were quite upset because everyone was parking in a field that they didn't want them in. But there was a couple of vehicles there, and then everyone just added to it. So if we don't take the time to identify exactly where people should park, they will find their own space. So I think it's really important, and an opportunity for you to use your own vehicles to start lining things up. If people see them on the roadways leading into the farm, they will park there. If they see them up towards your house or your barn, then that's where they will park. So really important to kind of think about that. Our visitor check-in is a really great space as well for you to start collecting some information about your guest and also explaining some of your rules. And it's really interesting, and I know some of you will groan with this, and our website indicates don't bring your pets, they're not welcome. A lot of our consumers are not always reading the fine print, and they think, oh, I'm going to the country for the day, that's great, I'll bring my dog. Now, we all know that that's not appropriate, but not everybody does. And when they get there, they're quite offended that somebody doesn't want a dog there. So having a welcome space right at the front of your farm to greet your guests, to explain any rules that you may have, any areas that are off limits, and even a greeter right on the road that can direct them for parking. However you choose to do this, is up to you, but it is really a great opportunity to start collecting information. So if you have CSA boxes, if you have food products or lunch products or things that you want to be selling, great for them to understand what is where around your farm. As you're also explaining that, you want to talk a little bit about your tours and your activities and what your daily agenda is. They have that great opportunity to understand how they can explore your time. And some farms will be a short stop. They might be there for an hour, and some are really like an all-day event. So what you explain to your consumer right at the front will really shape what their plans are for the rest of the day. So there might be some corners of your farm that are there to explore, but nobody knows. So grab them right up there at the front and let them know. The other thing is the on and off limits part. And, as they start to see people wandering around, I think what you will find, and for those of you that have done this before, is sometimes the guests just start to wander, and they might end up in areas that you don't want them in. So you want to clearly mark those, and they might be all for different reasons. So you might have, we'll get into chemicals and stuff, but you might have places that actually could be a hazard or could be dangerous. So we want to make sure that those things are really off limits. And signage is a good way of doing that. And when you take a look at our resource page, there's a number of free downloadable signs that you can use, but you can also go onto the internet and just look at search up hazard signs. And there are many hazard signs that you can just print off yourself that might be appropriately suited for the area. So take a look for those. And our consumers really don't want to go where they're not wanted. But they just need to know what's off limits. And the other part is the kind of cleanup part for your farms and your areas that you may want to do ahead of time too. And we all know that You know, there could be potholes and things like that. So you want to make sure that you go through, you fill in those potholes, things that you know to be slippery or uneven surfaces and things like that. You know, we always know when to duck and when to move and what to walk around, but of course these consumers won't. So the things that you can do in advance, anticipating perhaps hundreds or even 1,000 people on your farm, you know, making it easy for them so that we don't end up with any problems on the farm is probably a pretty good idea. Here's a big one, and Nicola always laughs because the first time she went out to a farm, she just about electrocuted herself because she didn't know about the fences. And that's not unusual for people that have never seen them. So when you're having things like fences, make sure that you are turning those off if it's an option. And if you're not, then have them well marked. If your event is going to go into the evening, make sure that the lighting is sufficient to keep people safe and that they can navigate the area. For waste management, this comes down to the AHS information as well. But you will want to have garbage cans and a waste removal plan as part of your policy. And also when you're outside, have a smoking, non-smoking policy for staff and visitors. It's important to let them know at that entrance point what is acceptable for you on your property and not. And the hand wash stations, make sure they're in convenient locations. So you may choose to have them near the food before people are purchasing food if you're doing that, or near the animals, wherever you want to put it. You just want to make sure that it's nice and safe and in a good spot. For equipment and machinery, a lot of our visitors will be really intrigued with stuff that they see on the farm. And in some cases, they will want to go and explore. A lot of children are also out for this. So you will often find people wanting to climb on things that your own kids would know better than to do that. But sometimes when they're coming from the city and they haven't been on a farm, it looks like the perfect climbing thing. So make sure keys are removed from vehicles, parking brakes are on, your wheels are locked or blocked, and sharp blades and things are removed, or you've considered what they are so nobody actually walks into them. If you are doing something with rides, so whether it's a tractor pull or if you are going with a horse and a wagon, make sure that you understand what the insurance policies are for those ones, and that you're in compliance with traffic safety acts. So we've had a few programs which are great, which have taken people from one farm to another with a tractor pull. So just make sure everybody is up to speed on what those regulations are, and that they're child safe for those kinds of projects that you're working on. For emergencies, again, you want to have a designated emergency response plan, and that the people that are volunteering with you or your family members that are helping out all understand what the plan is, and perhaps have that printed out in a couple of places. So you would have that at the entrance and a few places throughout your farm. We never plan for things to go wrong, but if they do, instead of people panicking, it's great if everybody knows exactly who the contact people are and where the emergency or first aid kits are, and the numbers and things like that. So the numbers for, fire and everything else should be readily on hand, and there should be a key contact person on the farm at all times for your volunteers if something goes wrong. And we're fortunate we really haven't had any problems with open farm days, but it's better to be sort of prepared as we move forward. And as we're talking about our staffing, I think it's really important to make sure you have the right number of people so that your event can go effectively and you're not sort of running in circles. So you will want to consider, as you start to map out your farm plan, where all those stops are. So if you want to have somebody directing for parking when you get there, and then you want to have somebody to greet them and perhaps sharing either, when your tours are or what's for sale, you will have probably a merchandising table where you're perhaps selling things, somebody leading farm tours, a farm schedule so people know when they go. So you can kind of start counting up the people. And then also people will be leaving their posts if they're helping people or doing other things. So depending on when where you're located and how many guests that you're sort of anticipating, you will want to staff sort of appropriately. And then to that point is a printed schedule is a great idea. Because somebody who is parking and they think they're only doing parking, they also will be fielding the questions from the visitors. Like, when is the tour going? So if everybody has a good idea of what's going on, and there's a printed schedule, it makes everything flow much easier. And if there's a point person for any questions that they can't ask or they can't answer, that there's a quick person that they can get in contact to find out with the answers. Merchandising is always an interesting one. And when we get feedback from the visitor end of things, we hear a number of different things. So for when you're selling products, you want to make sure everything is priced. If it's not priced, basically it's kind of not for sale. We don't want any surprises at the checkout. You want to make it easy for visitors to pay. And I know for some areas, this is sometimes a challenge when this isn't something that you do regularly. Most of the consumers should have cash with them. Sometimes they don't. So if you do have, a Square Reader or something like that, those things are great. And not every place has internet, and we know that, which does make some of that a challenge. But you just want to have your stuff that's for sale very clearly marked. You want it prominent so that people can purchase stuff on their way out or on their way in. And you really want to kind of maximize that opportunity, because our consumers really want to purchase things. And that is part of the fun for them too, is coming home with products from the farm. So I think that's really great. Now, as you've got all these strangers wandering around your farm, for those of you with animals, obviously a really important part is the safety. And you want to make sure that your fencing is safe and secure. And it's really for the protection of both the animals and of the guests. Your fences are turned off if you can. And that animals that are on display are healthy and have no outward signs of illness or disease or anything. I think it's really important. We understand that those are things that do happen, but we certainly don't want those on display. So you want to consider that. For those of you that have animals, open farm days can be trying for some of them. So if you've got ones that are having a high contact with people, there might be parts of your day that you want to have planned for the animals to be away from guests as well, so that they can kind of get away from all the excitement, and you'll know which ones those are. You'll want to double check gates and latches, and consider putting signs on some of those. So each of the farms are going to be different. So some of our guests might go to one farm where you can go in and feed the chickens, and then the next farm where they prefer that you don't. So do consider using signage of "You're welcome to go in," or "Please don't enter." Either are fine. They can look at the animals from either side of that fence. That part's up to you, but just make sure they know, because without proper direction or signage or people there, they could get it wrong, but inadvertently. So I think it's really important. And again, review things that might not be an issue for your own family, but things that small children can squeeze through. You might want to consider some temporary fencing, or something that can kind of block the passage so that the kids aren't squeezing through there. And B areas should be well signed and have a marked perimeter. Again, different people have different health issues around things like that. As we get onto food, there's a few more challenges with this, and I won't spend too long in this because we have whole workshops that are dedicated to this. But there are permits that you will need for food. For sampling food, depending on what type, you may or may not need a permit. But for some of them, some types of food samples, you will. If you want to sell a picnic lunch, if you want to do barbecue, if you want to work with food trucks or caterers or cook your own food, all of these things are very doable and very easy to do. But there is basically there are permits that you will need to do that. So feel free to contact me directly, and I can walk you through exactly what you do or don't need for your event that you're doing. but we welcome you to explore this. It's a great opportunity to test it out, to see how it works, and then continuing down the road of how you might want to expand this as you kind of grow some of your agritourism initiatives. And when we look at food, there's a couple of things that you might want to consider. And we talk a little bit about taste of place, and it's about what does my farm taste like? What does my region taste like? How do I celebrate the cuisine that is from our area? So what we invite you to do as you start to consider your food story is think, how can you add sort of more meaning to that visitor experience by having local product? And that might mean your products or your neighbor's products or products right from the area, because it's far more exciting for us to taste something that is grown right in that area. So instead of kind of looking at, the chips and and hot dogs and things like that, is, what are those opportunities for you to showcase something that's really unique and special and right from there? And consumers are willing to pay more for those kinds of things. So that's something that you really want to think about. So with that, we're going to move on to marketing. But if any of you have questions about AHS, AGLC, our checklist, or any of those things, please feel free to get in touch with me directly. And I will answer any of the questions after Nicola wraps up with marketing.
Hello, everyone. So not only do you have to prep your physical location, but it's also important to prep your online location. And that is because the consumers want to know what they're going to see, especially when they're deciding what to do during Open Farm Days or any farm events. If you're hosting an event on your farm outside of Open Farm Days, having an idea of what they can expect is very important. This is really important for visitors that have never been to a farm before. They might be apprehensive. And so showing the farm ahead of time can help with that conversion. And the conversion could be sales or visits. So ensuring that you're posting pictures on your website, social media, your Google business listing of your farm. And that should also include the front entrance of your farm. We have conversations all the time saying that, not everybody, it's normal for you, but it's not normal for everybody. And the only way we can normalize, rural tourism and farm visits and getting people to your farm stores is making it more comfortable for them. If you've never have any farm experience, this can be quite intimidating. You don't know if you're welcome. You don't know if this is like, okay. So making sure that it is as welcoming as possible online before they come out will help with your conversion. And then more event visits, and then that return on investment with merchandise as well. So how are we doing this? So yes, we're posting pictures on your online presences, but then also post pictures of your farm and what you're doing every day tasks, just trying to educate about what your farm is doing and what it is that you do, what it is that you sell. All that back-end stuff is really important for that conversion. It's also important to include descriptions of your farm and what you do. A picture speaks 1,000 words, but sometimes it's important to say, hey, this is me cutting hay, and this is why it's important. This is what we use it for. Again, it's obvious and maybe boring for you, but it is really important for people that have never experienced this before. And then I'll give the example even of, like Tanis mentioned, the electric fence. I have zero farm experience. I can't even tell you how many generations separated I am from a farm. And so when you're thinking about a consumer coming out, you're really thinking about me. I did not know that electrical fences were a thing. And so all these pieces where you're educating the consumer before they go to a farm really will help that on-farm experience. And the last one is including descriptions to your farm. So we, for Open Farm Days, we have the Google listing so you can pull it up. But what happens when we get to an area where, there's reception is poor? So it's taking them to a certain place where the signage comes in, and then sometimes a description as well. are really important. Helping people get to your place is important. And I think if you think when you've gone somewhere new, let's say you've gone to a town you've never been before, if you've been, you're going to someone's wedding and you've never been to this town before, what are the things that you need to know? You need to know what street is on, what time is that, what should I be wearing? Is this, should I be wearing my rubber boots or should I be wearing my nice shoes? So all these things that you would anticipate before you go to an event or before you go on vacation, you need to think about that for people coming to your farm. So having all that information on your website, on your blog, on your social media is going to be really helpful to enhance that experience for the people visiting your farm. So, so other things that you can include can be, opening dates, specific information about the farm, opening times. Is there a farm store? You can say, yeah, while you're here, we have a farm store and we're selling honey and we're selling garlic or whatever it is that you're selling. Make that aware so that they, again, know what to expect. Be specific as possible. Again, when we're saying, our farm is a family farm with 5 generations, that doesn't tell us what kind of farm it is. It doesn't tell us what kind of product you have available. It does not tell us when you are open. It does not give us any information. So the more information you can give is amazing. And then don't forget, bullet points are great. People are not going to read your dissertation. We can just have bullet points saying open from 9 to 5. Activities are from 1 to 2. Those are all the kinds of things that people know, so that they can glance at your site, or they can glance at your social, or glance at your Open Farm Days profile, that they know exactly what they will expect when they get there. Other places that you can include this can be blogs, guest blogs. So a guest blog, so a blog is on your website. A guest blog can be, on someone else's website, where they're saying, come to your farm, you're hosting this event. These are all the information that you can need to know before that. You can include this on a news release, any influencer outreaches. If there's food influencers, travel influencers in your community, use them to help spread the word. And also when you're doing things like news releases, influencer outreach, they're going to ask all that information. So the more information you have, the more specifics you have ahead of time, the better. So this is Open Farm Days program. So what do you need to know when you're including all this information on your Open Farm Days profile? So before we're going to talk about this, so if you have already registered for Open Farm Days for this year, there's been a couple changes, but I won't talk to that right now. But what I will speak to, and again, it goes back to some of the things that Tanis had talked about in prepping your farm, also needs to be considered for your profile. So when you're marketing for your Open Farm Days event or any other event, take the opportunity to talk in detail about specifically what it is you're planning on doing. You must always include the dates, the times, the locations of your farm, and the activities. So if they're coming to your farm and the free tour is happening at the back end of the farm by the chicken coop, then make sure you're including that in. People might be screenshotting your profile. They might be looking at it while they're there. If all the information is there, that's going to make their experience and your experience a lot more positive. Include the cost of pricing of extra activities in the listing. They may think they're coming to an Open Farm Days event, which is a free event, but there might be additional activities that have a cost. Now imagine if you had gone to an event and didn't realize that things would cost money, you'd be a little bit ticked off. So including all the costs that for the enhanced experiences in your profile is very important. Age requirements. So again, thinking about your activities. If you're having horse rides, do you want a 2-year-old on a horse ride, or would you prefer a 10-year-old on a horse ride? So making sure you're having that information in there. So when people come to your event and they've got a toddler and they're thinking they can get their toddler on a horse, and now they can't do it, they're going to be disappointed. And then food, will you be serving food? When is it? Where is it? How much is it? And what is special about it? So again, Tanis had talked previously about the taste or place. If this is food that is produced on your farm, make sure that you're including that as well. What should you avoid when marketing your farm? You should avoid being vague. A one-liner on your profile is not going to bring people to your farm. What we're doing is wanting to invite them to your farm, and a one-liner saying open farm days event, open on Saturday, come, that would be great, isn't going to cut it. People want to know what they can expect and what they can see. Assuming people know what to expect, and that's assuming people know what like going to a farm is. Many people from open farm days visitors don't have a lot of farming experience, so they're not going to know what they see when they get there. Not focusing on the experience of being on a farm. So Alberta farms are very special and unique, and the land that you guys are on is beautiful. So, focus on, how beautiful it is being where you are, and how fantastic your job is, and how hard it is to be a farmer, and how important. Those are all the things that you should be focusing on. Leaving that out is kind of taking away some of that little magic about what it is that you guys do. Photo collages, they seem great, but they're hard to see. It doesn't really give a good picture of what it is that you guys do. And anything that has to do with awkward conversations, so politics, religion, alien spaceships, anything that's not directly related to what it is that you do. People are coming to your farm for your expertise, and you want to be talking about why it is that what you do is special. So what do you need to think about before we either update or submit our profile for open farm days? You want to make sure before you submit or update your profile that you have clear photos of your farm. So making sure that they're in focus and represent what people will see when they come to visit you at your farm. A clear idea of what they can expect to see and do. So what are the free tours? Will there be food? What time is that going to be at? Will there be enhanced experiences? What does that cost? The dates and times that you will be participating. It seems obvious, but it's not always obvious. So having that date and time that people can come visit you. Once you set that time for open farm days weekends, you cannot deviate from that, because people will be coming to your farm if you said you're open from 12 to 5 and you decide at 3 o'clock that I don't want to do it anymore. And then people are expecting to come. They're on the road. They're driving for 2 hours to come see you. And now you're closed. A correct address, you will need 2 addresses unless the one and the same. So one for a mailing address and one for your farm location. We need your mailing address so that we can post you postcards, your posters, and any other materials that we have for you. So if we don't have your mailing address, we can't send you those resources. And one with your farm location. So sometimes those are 2 different things. Your farm location needs to be where literally your farm is on the planet. If you do not collect mail at your farm location, we need your mailing address, which then brings me to the longitude and latitude of the farm. If you don't know how to do that, just reach out to me and I can help you with that. The longitude and latitude of your farm then puts it onto Google. I know some people say, well, Google can't find my farm. Or Google doesn't know where I am. Google doesn't know unless you tell them. So having that longitude and latitude just gives us just a really exact space of where you are on the planet. And then again, if we've got the longitude and latitude and all of a sudden now the reception's gone, at least we've got directions. So we're turning west on Range Road 2, and then those kinds of things would be very helpful. And then the last thing you'll need for your profile is all social media website links. And I'm going to add even email as well, so that people can connect with you online. We probably get an email once every 2 weeks with someone asking where they can buy honey, and it's not from us, or not even honey, the product, or they have questions about goats. It's not, we can't answer that question. It's because they cannot reach out to you specifically. So having all your social media, website, email links available on your Open Farm Days profile will then direct people to you so they can purchase from you. So once your profile has been submitted and it's complete and it's up online, for you to start promoting it, it should have everything a visitor will need to know to come to your event. So this will be your hub. So when you're asking people to say, hey, we're participating in Open Farm Days, we would love if you could come visit us, everything they could possibly know in the entire world about your farm will be there. And this is really important because for a lot of farms that don't have websites, this comes in real handy. This profile becomes real handy for people to find out all information about your farm event. So we'll just give an example of a good profile, which kinds that we love. So this was from Birds and Bees Winery and Distillery. So what do we like about this? They've got bullet points, which is great. They've got events of the weekend from 10 to 6, both Saturday and Sunday. So those are dates, love that. They've got a description here about what they are. So award-winning facility. They've got section headings, right? So the welcome, and then we've got event information. We've got all of our current products will be available for purchase and sampling, as well as our new products will be available for tasting. They've got age requirements here. So, we can't be giving alcohol to children under 18. So that information is in there. Their free event. Open Farm Days does require a free agricultural experience or a tour. And so they've got their free tour information here. And they've just got all the details. And this is the kind of stuff that we want to see. It does not have to be long. It doesn't have to be laborious. It just needs to have all the information that a consumer will need to see. And that's just not for Open Farm Days. That's for any event that you're hosting. Again, it's like a wedding. Where is it? What do I need to do? What do I need to bring? And take your time and write this out. When we're going to be talking about profile submissions here in the next couple of weeks, but take the time now to think about what it is that your event will look like and who you will need to help you run the event, and then have all these pieces together. Because what often happens is that we were getting emails in August and people are only starting to plan it now, and then we're getting the 100 emails and we can't always keep up with updating profiles. So having all this information ahead of time, planning it ahead of time, saves you a lot of trouble. And then also gives you time to promote as well, the events and the cool things that people can see at your farm. Doing it 2 weeks in advance doesn't give you a ton of time to tell people all the cool things that you're planning. So how Open Farm Days promotes your event. I know I've talked about this a million times if people have been on our webinars before, so I'll just scooch through it real quick. We have our online activity, includes website, social media, Google Ads, SEO, which is search engine optimization. So if you search in Farm Visit Alberta, we're usually one of the top results. Online content creation and location-based social media ads. So then that will feed into our paid advertising, which is television partnerships with Chorus. So that's Global Edmonton, Lethbridge, and Calgary. Alberta-wide radio station ads, local newspapers, Google ads, and their social media ads. So although not everybody has digital or they don't care about social media or whatever, we also have other ways that we market the event through highway signs, posters and postcards, themed years with new graphic design. And this year, our theme is bison, and then product incubators, which we will get into in the next couple months. So what do you need to know about Open Farm Days this year? So it is on the 19th and 20th. What I need you to do is choose your activity and your day, and then register online at albertaopenfarmdays.ca. Deadline to register this year is April 30th, and we've made that earlier than previous years to make sure that we're getting our posters and postcards to you in advance. And then if you are an Ag Society, there are Ag Society grants through, and Suzanne can speak to you from that. So I'm not quite sure if there's any Ag Societies here today, but there are grants for ag societies. If you are not at ag society and you're like, hey, I would like some grants too, check with your local municipal governments, or check with, if you're part of producer group. I know dairy gives out grants for educational events, so that's something that you can look at as well to help offset the cost of your event. And then stay in touch. So here's everybody here at Open Farm Days. I'm pretty sure you've all, if you're getting our emails, then you've talked to us before. And that's it. Thanks, guys.
All right, great. So we'll just take a quick look at some of the questions that we have there. And if anyone has any questions as well, certainly invite you to start your camera up, unmute yourself, and we can go through any of those questions. So their first question here. Our county has restricted us to 50 cars per day as a maximum. Has any other counties done this? Has Open Farm Days involved municipalities to allow for special event permits to allow extra visitors? Great question, Tam. Thank you. That is actually something that we're looking at as Open Farm Days continues to grow and expand. You know, we are getting more and more people out there, and we haven't had really any issues with Open Farm Days and volume in the past. So I think these are new things that are starting to bubble up as some of the municipalities have different regulations. So something that we're sort of starting to look into and understand a little bit of how some of these regions might look at Open Farm Days a little differently, perhaps on those weekends. So stay tuned as we start to kind of explore that. And Rick, yes, I understand. We've tried to restrict dogs. That didn't work. Now we allow them. We don't advertise as long as they're leashed and friendly. So I think what's interesting, even we have, like we know some people that brought their dogs too, and you're like, oh my gosh. To be honest, I mean, the people are not trying to be rude, or they're just not thinking, and they're not understanding that you probably have guardian dogs there that are protecting things. And there again, that just shows the disconnect between understanding what it's like to be on a farm. So we try and continue to push that no pets allowed, no pets allowed. So we will do that from our end, but just be aware, and even explaining it to them, because you know, as they drive up to your farm with their dog in their car, this might be the first time that, even though we've got it posted and we say it, this might be the first time they've come across it. So explaining that, you know, your guardian dog might view their dog as a threat to the animals there, will help them to understand. But yeah, it is an ongoing challenge, and it's interesting. Yeah, I'm with Spruce Grove Ag Society. I need help.
I just want to add about the dogs. I mean, we've got blogs, we've got facts, we've got all kinds of stuff on our website. It might be, and if like Rick, you're okay with dogs, but don't advertise it. But if you really don't want dogs, and this is part of talking specifically on your profile, and having some, you know, don't be vaping at the farm, and don't bring your dogs, and maybe have some rules like farm visits. This is what acceptable on our farm.
All right. So Linda, yeah, absolutely happy to talk to you. I don't know if you want to put some questions up and talk to us now for a second. Might be something everybody benefits from, or if we want to take it offline, happy to do that as well. And as you're in Ag Society, you might want to go straight to Suzanne with some of your questions. That might be a good starting place, but we're all happy to meet with you. Is there a cost for the Open Farm Day signs? No, there is not. Each year we send out sort of the checklist of what we have for Open Farm Days, and you sign up for what you need. So it's the buttons, that you're a host, our signs, but we do ask you to keep those. They are a large cost for us. So we love to see them being used for Open Farm Days and then not used to paint other things over it and other such, which we have seen as well. But yeah, there's no cost to those, and we do that print every year. There will be also postcards, and our plan is to get to market earlier this year and have those into your hands. So if you're that opportunity to promote in your community at farmers markets, or other places that you think would be a great place to put those, those materials will be available, and you will have as long as you've signed up, you'll have an email come out asking you about the materials that you need for this year. What else have we got here? Oh, thank you. You may need to apply for an event permit to allow for more parking and traffic. Thank you for that, Anton. No cost for this. Oh, you've answered that. So Tam, we have an exciting opportunity to offer a workshop to other farms on how to design an earth walk interpretive program. Is there a way to let other open farm days know about that? Tam, if you want to send us that information, that'd be great. We're always happy to provide extra resources to any of the farms of unique and different things to do. So absolutely. Are you planning on advertising smaller farms this year? Absolutely. We advertise and promote all of the farms. Our goal really is to provide that platform for everybody, and everybody is treated equally. What we do find is there are many farms that are very savvy with marketing themselves. So they take that opportunity that we're providing with Open Farm Days, and they will send out their own press releases, and they will send out their own materials. And absolutely, they will sometimes get more attention because they're working that social media. Nicola, can I hand that to you?
Yeah, I was supposed to say, so when we come to like advertising farms, so we've got, hopefully this year we'd be back to pre-pandemic levels with 150 farms. So what we do is we have, let's say, 150 farms, and then I'm randomly pulling farms whose profiles are complete. So it's easier for me to market if I can say XYZ farm has pony rides, or XYZ farms has food. So this is why those details around what your event looks like are really important. It's harder to market an event, an Open Farm Days event, where it says, come visit our farm, we're open from 12 to 5. Because what story are we telling? Go to the farm from 12 to 5 and do what? What are we going to see? What are we going to do? What are we going to eat? And so farms that can get their profiles complete, it's easier for me to market to consumers about what they want. So you guys all know Facebook and what a disaster Facebook can be sometimes. So if we put something in there that says farm open from 12 to 5, go visit, there will be those comments underneath saying, well, what can I do there? What do they do? There's no information, there's no time. And so that just creates more confusion. So that's why the information about your event is so important. And then it helps people want to go there. If there's no information, why would they want to go? And if you can think about, I would just want you to put yourself into the consumer's perspective. Would you want to go to a business or to an event that had no information? Why would you want to waste your time on that? So that's what we try and focus on, things that are easier for consumers to wrap their head around. You're welcome. Oh, I'm glad, Jess, thanks. You guys can turn your mute off if it's easier to talk, if that's rather than us reading it out. But we're not trying to overwhelm you guys completely here. All this information is on the back end of our website, which I can send to you guys if you're participating this year. And then it's just to kind of give you a sense now, because it's better to plan it in March than like 2 weeks before in August. And then we're scrambling to get volunteers, and we're scrambling to figure out, do I have the insurance to do pony rides, or do I need to get an AHS permit, and doing it 2 weeks ahead of time might not get it approved, and that might fumble your entire experience. So trying to get all these thoughts and ideas going now just would make your life so much easier.
Don't have a
yes,
mic. I believe we've registered twice. We have time to create a profile. Yes. Yeah.
I think our email registration emails are going into spam boxes. So if you can't find the email, then just let me know. But yeah, probably Jess. Yeah, we're trying something new this year with the the profiles. As many people like Rick here has been participating for 11 years. Does he need to rewrite this every year? Can he just tweak what he has done in previous years? So we're just working with a Rick developer on how we can make that more efficient. So that information will be coming out to registered farms soon.
All right, well, I think that brings us to the end. But again, feel free to reach out to us, contact us, you know, book a time to have a chat. We're happy to walk through what you're planning, what you're thinking about. If you want to bounce ideas off of us, you know, we've seen a lot of different things over the years, so happy to either connect you with other farms that have done interesting things, or share some of our expertise or help you with your planning. So do feel free to send us emails, and we can kind of move forward from there. And then do check out the resources that we do have in Open Farm Days that will help you with your planning.
It's funny, you got Anton, who's a new farmer-ish, and then Jess, who's 20 years. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Wonderful.
And so we have this
right.
Facebook group too. So if you guys are not in the Facebook group, that's a really good opportunity to go in and ask questions around, you know, like what works, what doesn't work. Those are really, that's a good resource place. It's kind of quiet in there, but it is for you guys. And it's full of people that have participated in Open Farm Days before, or newbies. And so please feel free to use that as a resource. I'll send it to you guys with the recording.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, and look forward to seeing you for the next one. And again, feel free to reach out at any point in time with your questions.
Okay. Bye, guys.